Alright, welcome to Fishy Flux, which is essentially a book that I've been working on since last year. This is, I think we're on the 18th page, yeah. There's 100 pages in here. This is the Google Tabs limit in Docs. But, so we're gonna go over this first. On the necessary biases and epistemology of astrological knowing by the Institute for Astrological Ontology and Theology, the Advanced Seminar, the Hermeneutics of Celestial Interpretation. Again, what my channel really boils down to is advancing the science, the topic of astrology, and actually adding more elements. Prologue, the bias of belief. We begin with our first non-negotiable axiom. All astrology is practiced from within a cosmological bias. The naive practitioner believes they have none. The advanced scholar knows their bias is their foundation. The question is not whether you are biased, but which biases you consciously wear as lenses and which wear you as their instrument. Our discipline is not a science of objectivity, but a hermeneutics of correspondence, an art of interpreting the relationship between macrocosm and microcosm. To interpret is to bias. Therefore, we must systematize our predispositions. We've been going over the cosmological biases, the architecture of reality. These are the deepest, often unconscious assumptions about what the cosmos is and how it relates to human affairs. A. The causation spectrum bias. Strong causal bias, causal correlative bias, theological animistic bias. Strong causal bias, the planets emit forces, rays, vibrations, quantum influences that directly cause events and shape character. Ptolemy, many traditionalists, this is a physics of influence. A causal correlative bias, the cosmos and the individual are isomorphic structures, two expressions of the same underlying order. The planets do not cause, they symbolize synchronously. Jung Tarnas, and this is a metaphysics of meaning. Theological animistic bias, the planets are intelligences, angels, gods, or conscious archetypes with whom one can commune. Astrology is a language of divine discourse. Renaissance Magi, Vedic astrologers, this is a theology of consciousness. Scholars check. Which assumption undergirds your chart reading? Do you speak of transits triggering events, causal, or reflecting psychological states, acausal? The ontological status of the symbol. Realist bias, constructive bias, and participatory bias. So realist, the astrological symbol, for example Mars, points to a discrete, real archetypal entity that exists independently of human perception. Constructivist, the symbol is a human cognitive construct, a brilliant but ultimately projected map imposed on an indifferent sky. The power resides in our meaning-making, not in the cosmos. Participatory, the middle way, the symbol emerges from the participatory dialogue between human consciousness and cosmic pattern, neither solely out there nor in here, but in the relationship, influenced by Henry Corbin's Mundus Imaginalis. Scholars check. I'll just say SC. When you say Saturn, do you refer to a cosmic principle, a psychological complex, or a co-created reality between the two? Let's get into hermeneutical biases, the art of interpretation. These are the methodological preferences that shape how you extract meaning from the celestial text. The fatalism, agency, dialectic. There's fatalist, deterministic, psychological, developmental, predictive, possibilist. So fatalist deterministic, the chart is a fixed script. Transits and progressions reveal inevitable events. Classical, some branches of horary and electional emphasizes enenki, necessity. Psychological, developmental, the chart shows potentials, complexes, and developmental tasks. The individual has agency in how these manifest. Humanistic, Jungian emphasizes telos, purpose. Predictive possibilist, the chart reveals probable future patterns, but the manifestation is shaped by consciousness, choice, and other charts. Synastry, locality, emphasizes probabilism. SCD see a difficult Saturn transit as a predetermined blow, fatalism, a necessary challenge for growth, developmental, or a narrowing of probable outcomes requiring skillful navigation, possibilist. The system selection bias. Your choice of system is a profound bias that creates a different reality. Yes, your choice of astrological, meaning whether you use Western, Vedic, or other things. So, of course, there's tropical versus sidereal, whole sign versus placidus versus other house systems, traditional versus modern versus evolutionary. So tropical versus sidereal, the philosophical time bias. Tropical biases the relationship to the sun and season, psychological form-oriented. Sidereal biases the relationship to the fixed star backdrop, karmic, soul-oriented. This is the choice between a solar and a galactic mythos. Whole sign versus placidus versus other house systems, the existential space bias. Whole sign treats the house as a complete, undifferentiated field of life. Placidus creates unequal, dynamic sectors of experience, biasing toward personal destiny and struggle. This is a choice between a philosophy of wholeness and a philosophy of process. Traditional versus modern versus evolutionary. The historical consciousness bias. Traditional, pre-1700s, biases outward events, social status, and bodily fortunes. Modern, post-Jung, biases inner psychology and personal fulfillment. Evolutionary, post-1970s, biases soul development and karmic trajectory. You do not pick a system. The system that resonates with you picks you based on your deeper cosmological bias. State your system, and you have stated your metaphysical allegiance. Praxical biases, the ethics and aesthetics of practice. These are the value-laden preferences applied in the act of reading any astrology chart. The dignity demonization bias. Planetary apologetics, the tendency to rehabilitate traditionally malefic planets Saturn, Mars, Pluto as teachers or transformers, thereby biasing readings toward positive, empowering interpretations, a therapeutic bias. Benefic malefic rigidity, adhering strictly to classical judgments of fortune, misfortune, biasing readings toward fatalism and fear, a pessimistic or punitive bias. Contextualism, insisting that no planet is inherently good or bad, only expressing appropriately or inappropriately within its context, a relativistic bias. The confirmation and narrative bias. Selective symbolic coherence, noticing and emphasizing chart patterns that confirm your preferred cosmological story, for example, spiritual evolution, heroic struggle, tragic fate, while minimizing contradictory evidence. The beautiful chart fallacy, unconsciously attributing more favorable traits, rate higher destiny to charts with elegant patterns, grand shrines, mystic rectangles, and viewing chaotic charts is problematic. Signatures overreach, the zeal to find a single overarching pattern, for example, a healer's mark, a teacher's configuration that explains the entire life, thereby reducing complexity to a monomyth. The cultural existential bias. Western individualism bias, interpreting charts through the lens of self-actualization, personal growth, and unique destiny, a modern, largely Western value. Everything is so what nowadays? The anachronism bias, applying modern psychological meanings, for example, Pluto as transformation, to historical charts or events, rather than seeking the meaning the era itself would have ascribed. Transcendence bias, common in spiritual circles, overemphasizing transpersonal planets Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, and spiritual signs Pisces, Sagittarius, while devaluing the mundane significations of Saturn or the personal planets as lower. Toward a critical self-reflexive practice, the advanced scholar's mandate. So first they articulate your primary cosmological bias. Begin every major analysis with a statement of position. I read from a participatory, a causal correlative framework using tropical zodiac and whole sign houses with a possibilist orientation toward prediction. Practice triangulation. For any major life question, read the chart through 3 conflicting biases. What would a hard determinist see? What would a humanistic psychologist see? What would a Renaissance magus see? The truth likely dances in the tensions between them. Engage in bias collision. Formally debate a colleague who holds opposing system bias, for example, sidereal versus tropical. Defend their position. The goal is not to convert, but to understand the coherent reality their bias generates. Cultivate epistemic humility and recognize that your entire astrological edifice rests on chosen, not proven first principles. The ultimate bias is belief that the celestial configuration mirrors or influences the terrestrial condition. This is our glorious, unfounded faith. Conclusion. Bias as the bones of the art. Astrology without bias is a corpse. It's the interpretive bias that brings the static chart to life, just as musical bias, phrasing, tempo, dynamics brings notes on a page to life. Our task is not to eliminate bias, but to make it conscious, make it sophisticated, make it a deliberate creative choice. In the end, the most dangerous bias is the unconscious one. The advanced scholar does not seek neutrality. They seek responsible, eloquent, and profound partiality. They know that in reading the stars, they are also and always reading the constellations of their own soul. Thus, our final axiom: tell me your astrological biases, and I will tell you who you are. Alright. So, let's get into the experimental protocols for testing astrological claims. And we will spice it up really quick. By the Department of Scientific Astrology, course code, prerequisites, research methods, statistics 401, basic astrological literacy, critical thinking. We're going to be going over the scientific challenge, testing pattern-based systems, general principles for astrological research, Protocol 1, testing natal astrology, Protocol 2, testing predictive astrology, Protocol 3, testing psychological astrology, Protocol 4, testing medical astrology, statistical considerations. Skip over one. Okay. Did methodological innovations for astrological research, the gold standard multi-site replication initiative, ethical protocols, case study, the 10-year mega study proposal, publication and peer review standards, and conclusion on the way forward. Oops. And first I want to go into the ethical protocols first, because I feel like, honestly, ethics should always be talked about first. It's like fucking talking about the rules first, you know, of practicing on a ethical level. So these are the informed consent requirements. The clear statement being, this research tests whether astrology works. No deception about purpose. Right to withdraw at any time. Debriefing, explaining results, findings, potential harms. Disillusionment if astrology fails tests. Overconfidence if astrology succeeds in limited tests. Determinism, reinforcing fatalistic thinking. Privacy, birth data confidentiality. Mitigation. Careful debriefing about study limitations. Emphasize probabilistic nature of any findings. Secure data storage. IRB, approval for all studies. Researcher bias. Pro-astrology researchers may design tests too easy. Anti-astrology researchers may design tests impossibly hard. Solution, collaborative teams with diverse perspectives. Okay, now let's go up here now that we actually went over the ethics of it. And get into the scientific challenge of testing pattern-based systems. The fundamental problem of this is astrology makes probabilistic, multivariable, context-dependent claims about correlations between celestial patterns and terrestrial phenomena. Traditional scientific methods designed for simple causal relationships often fail when applied to complex symbolic systems. The core difficulties being multivariate complexity. Charts contain 10 or more planets, 12 signs, 12 houses, dozens of aspects. Interpretive flexibility. Same configuration can be interpreted differently based on context. Confirmation bias. Both practitioners and subjects seek confirming evidence. The placebo-nocebo effect. Belief in astrological influences creates real psychological effects. General principles for astrological research. Minimum standards for credible research. Double-blind protocols. Neither subject nor evaluator knows the target chart. Adequate sample size, minimum n equals 100 for individual claims, n equals 1,000 or more for general claims. Control groups, match for age, culture, socioeconomic status, clear operational definitions, what exactly constitutes a Mars influence, pre-registered hypothesis, predictions made before data collection, statistical correction for multiple comparisons, Bonferroni, FDR, etc., replication, independent verification by different researchers. The 3 levels of testing. Level 1, phenomenological correlations. Do planetary positions correlate with observable traits, events? For example, Quaquelin's Mars effect in athletes. Level 2, interpretive accuracy. Can astrologers derive accurate information from charts? For example, blind chart readings matching to individuals. Level 3, predictive utility. Do astrological timing methods outperform chance? For example, electional astrology for successful outcomes. Now let's get into the first protocol, testing natal astrology. So, our study design is the match chart protocol. Research question, can astrologers match birth charts to individuals better than chance? Here's the method. For a sample, 100 birth charts, real people, and 100 foil charts generated randomly, plausibly. The procedure was each astrologer receives 10 real charts and 10 personality profiles. Profiles include Big 5 traits, life events, career choices, standardized measures. Task, match each chart to correct profile. Control, non-astrologers perform same task. Blinding, astrologers see only birth data, date, time, location, no identifying information. Analysis, compare accuracy rates between groups. Chi-squared test for significant difference from chance. 110 equals 10%. Effect size calculation, go into H. Variations, expert versus novice astrologers, different astrological systems, Western, Vedic, Chinese, specific chart features, sun sign only, aspects only, etc. Study design, the Mars effect replication, replicating Quaquelin's findings, Mars position in key sectors more frequently in athletes' charts. The method being 1,000 professional athletes' birth charts and 1,000 control general population. Data collection, precise birth times within 30 minutes accuracy. Analysis, calculate Mars position relative to horizon, zenith, Quaquelin sectors. Compare distributions, Kolmogorov, Smirnov test. Control for birth time rounding effects. Extensions, test other planets with other professions, Saturn for scientists, etc. Test in different cultures, sports. Protocol 2, testing predictive astrology. Study design, electional astrology trial. Do events initiated during auspicious astrological periods have better outcomes? Business launchers, objective success measures. 200 entrepreneurs randomly assigned to Group A launched during astrologically favorable period selected by a panel of 5 astrologers. Group B launched during neutral period control. Group C launched during unfavorable period selected by same panel. Blinding, entrepreneurs don't know their group assignment rationale. Outcome measures. 2-year follow-up, business survival, revenue growth, subjective satisfaction. Analysis, survival analysis, Kaplan-Meier curves, ANOVA for continuous outcomes, control for confounding variables, industry, experience, capital. Transit prediction study. Can transits predict life events better than chance? 500 individuals with complete life event histories verified. For each subject, identify 5 eventful years and 5 uneventful years. Give astrologers only the birth chart and ask which years have significant events in these categories: career change, relationship change, health event, relocation, etc. Random algorithm making same predictions. Astrologers see only birth data, not event data. Signal detection theory, ROC curves. Compare hit rates, false alarm rates. Calculate predictive accuracy above chance. Protocol 3, testing psychological astrology. The personality correlation study. Do sun signs, moon signs, rising signs correlate with personality traits? 10,000 or more participants from diverse cultures. Big 5 inventory. Standardized personality. Birth time, date, location verified. Calculate sun, moon, rising signs precisely. MANOVA with sun sign as factor, personality traits as dependent variables. Effect sizes, partial, ETA squared. Cross-cultural comparisons. Control for seasonality effects separate from zodiac effects. Synastry compatibility trial. Do astrological compatibility measures predict relationship outcomes? 500 couples, newly married, committed. Calculate synastry charts, composite, Davison aspect patterns. Have 5 astrologers rate compatibility 1 through 10 scale based only on charts. Follow couples for 5 years. Relationship satisfaction yearly, dyadic adjustment scale. Separation, divorce, counseling sought. Non-astrological predictors, personality compatibility, attachment styles. Correlation between astrological ratings and outcomes. Multiple regression controlling for known predictors. Survival analysis for relationship duration. Let's test medical astrology. Or health event prediction. Can planetary transits to natal charts predict health events? Will we use 1,000 medical records with precise health event timing? Identify 3 types of events: acute, heart attack, chronic onset diabetes, accidents. For each event, calculate transits progressions for 30 days before the event. Same individuals, random dates with no events. Given transit data, predict event type: none. Analysis. Compare transit patterns and event versus control periods. Machine learning approach. Can algorithms detect patterns? Compare to known medical risk factors. Methodological innovations for astrological research. The astrological Turing test, the longitudinal birth cohort study, the twin discordance design, the cultural equivalence test. The astrological Turing test. Can expert astrologers distinguish real charts from randomly generated charts, charts of similar people, twin studies, time-shifted charts? The longitudinal birth cohort study. Track 10,000 babies born in same week worldwide, measure development, life events, personality, compare to natal charts, control for socioeconomic cultural factors. The twin discordance design. Identical twins, same genetics, similar environment, different birth times, even minutes apart. Test if astrological differences predict life differences. Powerful control for genetics, upbringing. The cultural equivalence test. Test same astrological principles in Western astrology, tropical, Vedic astrology, sidereal, Chinese astrology, Mayan astrology. Do different systems produce consistent predictions for same individuals? Statistical considerations. Multiple comparison problem. If testing 12 sun signs multiplied by 5 traits multiplied by 10 aspects equals 600 comparisons, expect 30 significant results by chance alone, 5% alpha. Solutions. family-wise error correction, bone Veroni, home Veroni, bone Veroni, false discovery rate control, Benjamin Hochberg, pre-registered hypothesis, only test predicted relationships, replication, significant results must replicate a new sample, effect size requirements, and Bayesian approaches. So minimum meaningful effect Cohen's D greater than 0.3 for astrological claims should exceed known demographic predictors. Power analysis, sample size calculated for 80% power to detect effect. Bayesian approaches, calculate Bayes factor evidence for astrological versus null hypothesis, more informative than p-values alone, allows updating beliefs with new evidence. The gold standard multi-site replication initiative. The Astrological Reproducibility Project, modeled on psychology's reproducibility project. Oop, I meant to say reproducibility. Jesus Christ. Reproducibility. I'm pretty sure I have dyslexia. I know I'm autistic and I have that diagnosis since I was a kid, but like with everything happening in my life, I just definitely think I talk over myself more than I used to. But this is essentially modeled on psychology's reproducibility project. So, phase 1, identify 50 key astrological claims from literature. Phase 2, design rigorous protocols for each. Phase 3, multiple independent labs attempt replication. Phase 4, meta-analysis of results. Phase 5, public database of findings. Example claims to test. Mercury retrograde increases communication errors. Saturn return correlates with life restructuring. 7th house Venus indicates marriage timing. Pluto transits correlate with psychological transformation. Lunar phase affects human behavior. Already went through the ethics. Let's go through the case study of the 10-year mega study proposal, the Cosmic Patterns Project. The goal is comprehensive test of astrology's core claims, and this is the design. Sample is 100,000 participants worldwide, and the data we're using is precise birth data, DNA, life events, personality, annual updates. Our methods: natal chart analysis, automated in human, transit tracking, compatibility testing, health event prediction. Controls: seasonality, demographics, genetics, culture, analysis, machine learning to detect any celestial terrestrial patterns. Duration 10 years, 2025 through 2035. Cost estimated $50 million, comparable to other large scientific projects. Output: definitive evidence for against various astrological claims. Publication and peer review standards. Don't necessarily have to go over that, but here's the conclusion. The way forward. So astrology has existed for millennia as an observational tradition. Scientific revolution taught us to test our observations rigorously. Now we must apply those lessons to astrology. Here's the path. Stop arguing about whether astrology works and the forms of it, like systems. Start testing specific claims with rigorous methods. Follow the evidence wherever it leads. Refine theories based on evidence. Accept outcomes even if they contradict beliefs. Here's the stakes. If astrology contains valid correlations, we discover new connections between cosmos and life. If astrology lacks empirical support, we redirect energy to more fruitful pursuits. Either way, we advance human knowledge. Here's the final challenge for you. Design an experiment to test one specific astrological claim from your own experience. Make it testable. Operational definitions, feasible, sample methods, rigorous controls, blinding statistics, ethical, informed consent, no harm. The future of astrology as a potential science depends on such experiments. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one to teach you more.